We are extremely, extremely grateful for this award, the Paul Karras Award. I'm here with my partner, Khaled Abu Awad, who is the Palestinian co-director of Roots. I am the Director of International Relations. Khaled and I come from the Holy Land. But life on the ground in the Holy Land is anything but holy. Jews and Palestinians live in geographical proximity, but actually in two separate worlds. There is so little connection between them. Between the two sides, one finds ignorance and prejudice, resentment, fear, hostility. And further, Jews, my people, have all the power, and Palestinians suffer from deep institutional neglect and discrimination. People are dying almost every day because of these conditions. For 33 years, I had lived in the Holy Land but had never had a real conversation with a Palestinian. For all these years, the Palestinians for me were like the gray, drab scenery that passes in the background of the movie, my Jewish movie, but they're not part of the plot. They were transparent, or I was blind. I lived as if my story, my Jewish story, was the only story in the land. There was no other story, no other people. Today, I hope that I know better. After 9.5 years of deep and difficult, painful and productive, challenging and cathartic interactions with my Palestinian neighbors and partners, I know that there are two peoples in the land, two stories in the land, and to live your life as if there's only one story and to live your life as if there's only one story is to mistake part of the truth for the whole truth. I don't want to be there any longer. About 9.5 years ago, Khaled, myself, and others founded Roots, the Israeli-Palestinian grassroots initiative for understanding nonviolence and transformation. Roots created something almost unheard of, a joint Israeli-Palestinian community center where local people from the two sides come together almost every single day for social activities, educational activities, and religious activities. It spans the gamut of interfaith dialogue, religious celebrations, photography workshops, trauma workshop, learning the other's language, culture, religion, and politics. And furthermore, we also focus on activism, trying to make Palestinian lives better on the ground, legal issues, freedom of movement, sewage, building rights, and more. "90% of the thousands of Israeli Jews and Palestinians who come to our programs have never, ever met the other side. They come with their anger and fear, with their prejudices, traumas from lives lived in the shadow of violence and attacks. The first thing that happens is humanization of the other. He or she turns out not to be the demon that we imagined. We discover a human being on the other side. We're surprised that they're human just like us, and often we are embarrassed that we're surprised, but we're still surprised. Humanization is difficult. At the beginning, cognitive dissonance is created, and then unsettling empathy. The process begins almost immediately at the first meeting, continues, but it takes a while to sink in. But that's not the end of it. There's a second level, which is the recognition of the national identity of the other side. Israeli Jews and Palestinians, by and large, construct their identities upon the erasure, the nullification of the other side's identity. Both sides think they can tell the other side who they are. Israeli Jews say there's no such thing as Palestinian. Never was a Palestinian state. They're just Arabs, so let them go back to Saudi Arabia where they came from. And the Palestinians say the Quran greatly respects Judaism, but it's religion, it's a faith, it's not a people. You don't need land, so go back to Eastern Europe where you came from. But after you listen to the other side, tell the stories about who they are for weeks and for months, you begin to realize that you know nothing about who they are. You have to listen, and it's so hard to listen. You have to listen and let them tell you who they are, and then they may listen when you tell who you are. The Jewish, Israeli, Palestinian participants in Roots have learned that there's such a thing as the Palestinian people, that there's such a thing as the land of Palestine, and the Palestinians belong to Palestine. And the Palestinian participants in Roots have learned that there's such a thing as the Jewish people, and there's such a thing as the land of Israel, and the Jewish people belong to the land of Israel. And here now is the most excruciatingly difficult, the most gut-wrenching, the most ostensibly traitorous thing. The borders of the historical land of Israel and the borders of historical Palestine are the exact same borders. Both peoples, I say both peoples, belong to the same piece of land. And you know what? No one's going anywhere, neither people is leaving. Our message, the message of Roots, is that both Jews and Palestinians belong to the same land. We both recognize the other side's identity and the other side's belonging to the land. We must find a way to fit two peoples into one land, and that begins with fitting two truths into one heart. According to our understanding, the political conflict between the Jewish Israelis and the Palestinians is at its core a conflict over identity. In order to solve the conflict, we must each overcome our hubris of exclusivity and learn to accept and recognize the other side's identity and their rootedness in the land. Through our grassroots, people-to-people peace building, Roots is preparing the human hearts for a future political settlement founded on equality, freedom, human rights, dignity, and security for both peoples in that little sliver of land that we both call home. Thank you. Thank you very, very much.